Hello and welcome back to my channel. I'm Rachel and I just finished reading my books for April. So I miraculously finished my whole TBR pile, which I've honestly never done. So thought I'd just quick hop on and share this, and I'm just drinking a coffee at 8 p.m. watching a thunderstorm roll in. So probably a bad idea, but I've got makeup on. So I figured let's just shoot this. So I read 14 books in April, and in the beginning it was a lot of library books, which kind of bogged me down because I was like finishing series and they were all pretty big. So the first one was Black Sun, and this is, I read this on audiobook, and it was a fantasy book about like two kind of like religious sects coming together and like fighting over power. So it left on a huge cliffhanger, so I feel like there's gotta be another one coming. So I did give it 4 stars. It definitely kept my interest. I don't love when books leave such a cliffhanger, but it was good. And then I did it. I finished A Wheel of Time. So A Memory of Light is the 14th book in the series. I gave it 4 stars. So Brandon Sanderson did a really good job of wrapping up the series. It was almost all battle, the entire like 900 pages. But it was really well written. It was very interesting. I was a little disappointed in the end because it's like, the 14 book lead up and then it's just done. And I love a good like long epilogue, like see what the characters are doing a couple years later, especially when you like save the world kind of a thing. But I still gave it 4 stars, so I did like it. The last 4 books were great. And so it'll be really, really fun to see this in the TV series and see how it's adapted and be able to see things, because that first season was really good. And then I listened to, I believe it's Middle Grade. So City of Ghosts. It's by Victoria Schwab, or V.E. Schwab. She's got 2 different pen names that she writes under. And so it's about a girl who can see ghosts. And her parents are actually, ironically, like supernatural TV hosts. But they don't necessarily like believe in it. But she can see ghosts. And so then she meets somebody else like her. And is kind of figuring out like what her calling is, like what she's actually supposed to be doing. And I think there's 2 more. So I gave this 4 stars. I thought it was super entertaining, fast. It was good. And then I read my first physical book. I read Cast for my book club for April. This is a very heavy book. So not only is it dense in pages, but heavy material. So this book talks about how America is a caste system, like India, with African Americans being like the lowest in America because of slavery and how we have treated them since. And then the highest caste is your white man, rich white man. So super interesting. There's it compares America to India and their caste system, and compares like apparently the Nazis in Nazi Germany studied America for how to treat the Jews. So if you are looking for, like, it reads well, like it's not hard to read, but you can't read it quickly because there's so much to digest. So if you are looking for something heavy like that, I would highly recommend this. I gave it 5 stars. It was very good. Our book club is actually going to not read the book that we were going to read, and we're going to re-talk about this next month because there's just so much to talk about, and some people weren't quite done, and we just thought it was worth actually everybody talking about. So, Cast. Very good. And then I finished the Diviner series. So very exciting. It was all leading up to this. So King of Crows. So this is like the mysterious man, ghost, evil being that was he's like kind of stirring things up in the previous 3 books. And so this is the 4th book by Libba Bray. So the first in the series is The Diviners, and it's set in the 1930s. So they're like flappers and like Pinkertons and things like that. And I thought it wrapped up the series good. So I gave it 4 stars. I liked it. I liked the whole series. I do like Libba Bray. I read her in like middle school and high school as well. But yeah, I really liked The King of Crows, and I love finishing series. It's like one of my very favorite things to do. And then I read the second, it's a duo, so not really a series, but, so Muse of Nightmares by Laini Taylor is the follow-up to Strange the Dreamer. And so Strange the Dreamer, I finished, I think that was one of my last books in March, and that I physically read. This I listened to. So I think I liked it a little bit less because I listened to it, and I don't know if it didn't catch my attention or if I wasn't paying attention well enough. So I gave this one 3 stars. I gave Strange the Dreamer 4 stars. So I really like the story. They like brought in new characters, and I was a little bit confused about like where they were going to fit into the story, and they kind of don't explain that it's like another storyline happening. So that was a little disappointing. Sorry, I'm just going to take Mabel's collar off because she's moving around and it's driving me crazy. So Strange the Dreamer is about an orphan boy who doesn't know like where he's from or what he's doing. He's a librarian, and one day this like magical city that nobody can remember the name to, like it was like snatched from all their memories, they send a delegation, and they're looking for people to help them with an issue, and they don't tell them what the issue is. So Strange ends up going, it's Laszlo Strange, so Strange is like his last name. It's like a bastard's last name. So he goes and helps, and I can't give it away, but it's very good. A good little fantasy read. And then Muse of Nightmares was also good. It was just a little confusing. So that's the only reason I didn't give it 4 stars. And then I read Gilded by Marissa Meyer. So I have read most of her other books. So she wrote I don't even know what they're called. So the first one is Cinder. I have so many of them. What does she call them? Oh, they're the Lunar Chronicles. So they are fairy tale retellings. And it starts with Cinder. So Cinder is like Cinderella, but Cinderella is a cyborg. So she's like part machine, part human. And like some of them are like set in space. They're very good. I love them. Everyone I've recommended them to that likes fantasy has loved them. So I really like her. She also has, so there's like a series of 4 books that are those fairy tale retellings that are like on the same time, and they like overlap. And then there is a standalone book that's about the Queen of Hearts and like how she, like her origin story, how she became who she is and how crazy she is. And it was so good. I loved that book. So I was very excited for Gilded because this is like Rumpelstiltskin. And I liked the book. I thought it was a little slow. So I didn't give it 5 stars because it did drag a little bit. And it's like not a small book. But then it ends in a cliffhanger, and there's going to be another one. So I'm excited. So I actually read the library's copy, and today I bought one because I knew that I would reread it or it would fit nicely on my shelf with my other ones. So Gilded by Marissa Meyer. Little Rumpelstiltskin. Fantasy is my favorite genre, but fairy tale retellings is like my very favorite. And then I read A Deadly Education. So this is by Naomi Novik, another fantasy. I read a lot of fantasy this month. So she wrote the book Uprooted and Spinning Silver, which are 2 fairy tale retellings that I love. So I'm planning to just kind of read everything by her. So A Deadly Education is about a girl, which I got many chapters in and had no idea that the main character was a girl. Like, I don't know, nothing that was happening was, like, had a gender, and then all of a sudden they used a pronoun, and I was like, oh my gosh, it's a girl. So, oh, and what is her name even? I don't think they have it on the back either. I think they call her Elle. It's like Galadriel. So she has magic. So they're kind of like wizard, kind of, but like using power. Like they have to like have power stored up to use it. And then there's like, it's like there's evil magic and there's good magic. So there's quite a bit of world building, and it's not even that big of a book. So the school that they go to is actually like super dangerous. And so, like students die every day because like the building's attacking them. And then there's also like basically like demons killing them and monsters. And so it's about that. And then I think there's another one out in this series, and I think the third one's about to come out. I'm not sure, but I did really like it. I gave it 3 stars. I don't even know why I gave it 3 stars. I liked it. I don't know if it was just because it was a little, I don't know why I gave it 3 stars. I liked it. So, yeah. I think the next one's going to be better, though. And then I read Empire of Pain. So that's going to actually be a book club book for a couple months from now, but it was available on audiobook. So I wanted to read it while it was available. So Empire of Pain is about the Sackler dynasty. So they invented Oxycontin. Yeah, Oxycontin. So as a nurse, I find this super interesting because I also watched on Hulu, there is I think it's like 10 episodes called Dope Sick. And that's also about this, but it's like, that focuses more on like the patients and like the lawsuit. This focuses on the Sackler family. So this is like the history of the Sacklers and like their empire and how they like got to this point, where Dope Sick is about like the like opioid addiction and the like lawsuits and all the people that have died from the opioid crisis, and kind of like the I can't think of the people that push drugs. The reps. So like the drug reps that go and like sell drugs to the doctors. So it sounds like the Sacklers actually like really invented a lot of what we currently use in medicine with opioids. So it's a little bit scary, especially as a former orthopedic surgery nurse. We gave out so many opioids. And I personally have told people, if you use this drug as it's prescribed, you can't get addicted to it, which is a lie. The pain scale that we use is also invented by the Sacklers. The fact that pain is a 5th vital sign was invented by the Sacklers. So, yeah, so it made me feel very like guilty about my role that I've played in the opioid epidemic, and it is just so interesting. So I gave the book, I gave it 4 stars. It was a little boring compared to the show. Like, that show is amazing. So if you're not a big reader and you don't really care about like how the Sacklers became who they became, because this talks about more like their dynasty. Dope Sick kind of focuses more on like the patients and the lawsuit. So, and if you don't like to read, I would highly recommend Dope Sick. So, or both. They're so good. And I have actually spoken with lots of patients about this as well, because a lot of people are seeing that. It's a very, very good like mockumentary, short series, whatever you call it. So, so I gave that 4 stars, and that's going to be a fun one to talk about in book club, I think. So, and then I read Vespertine, which is by Margaret Rogerson. So she also wrote Sorcery of Thorns and An Enchantment of Ravens. And so those are both standalone fantasy, which is honestly very rare. Like a lot of fantasy are like big series. So it's nice sometimes to just read one book and just that's the one story. So this is about a nun. So there's like a religious order that like they have relics that they then can like wield and control demons and spirits. So a Vespertine is a nun that has like an order. I think it's an order 4 relic. So there's there's one is like your lowest, like least dangerous like relic. Like the demon or spirit that you're controlling is not as powerful. And then I believe the 4th is the fifth order. So she has a 5th order spirit that she can control. So it's like controlling her. And there's somebody after her that's trying to kill her, and there's like corruption, and there's a lot of other like ghosts that are taking over. So trying to figure out like what's going on. There's also like old versus new magic. And it did kind of leave it open like there might be another one. So I do feel like this story could stand alone, but there might be another one. It would be interesting. So I gave this 4 stars. I liked it. And then I read The Inheritance Games. This book is so good. So I gave this 5 stars. I think it's my only, I gave Cast 5 stars. So this book, I think I read in 2 sittings just because it is a heftier book, but this reminded me of Knives Out. So it's like someone dies and leaves their whole fortune to someone that they like, that the family doesn't know. So, and then there's like stipulations for her to get the money. And there's attempted murder, and there's puzzles, and like a treasure hunt. It's so good. So the second one is called The Hawthorne Legacy. So hopefully I can read that in June. But I loved it. I highly recommend this. If you like Knives Out or The Westing Game, that was another like a middle grade book that I read last year that is like about people that are all competing for an inheritance. So very good, written well. There's a little bit of romance, there's murder, it's so good. So this is by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. I've never read anything by her before, but so good. And then I read Between Shades of Grey. So this is an audiobook. I read a lot of physical books. I think, because I had a week off of work, so I wasn't driving as much. So Between Shades of Grey, nope, that is a HelloFresh meal. Where did it go? So Between Shades of Grey is by Ruta Sepetys. I don't actually know how to say her last name. So I have written other books by her. She wrote Salt to the Sea, which is a World War II book. So this is also a World War II book, but I feel like instead of she writes just a little bit different of a perspective. So I feel like since everybody loves to write World War II books, she writes like a little bit different story than what everybody's writing. So Between Shades of Grey is actually about Lithuanian refugees. Because I didn't know, but so Russia actually was had Lithuanians and all sorts of other people that they didn't like in work camps in Siberia and other places, and nobody knew that they were there. So it's a story about a girl and her mom and brother, because her dad is moved somewhere else. So you hear about him a little bit, but he's not a character. And so it's about them in this work camp, and then they actually get moved to multiple camps. And it says in the end that it was over a 12-year period. So it sounds like they were actually, way before America got into the war. They were already in these work camps. And then it must have been quite a bit after as well. So at one point they talk about how Americans are actually like in the camps and they're being kept inside their houses so that nobody knows that they're there. So because America and Russia were allies in World War II, so Russia wasn't even like the bad guys. So that was super interesting. The whole thing overall just didn't catch my attention as much. So I gave it a 3, but it was a nice short listen and it was a different perspective. So I liked it. And then I read Nevernight, which is another fantasy. So this is by J. Kristoff, and I had this on my book haul. So I read it. I gave it 4 stars. So it is a hefty little book, but it reads very quickly. So this is about a girl named Mia who, so she's a Darkin, so she can like control shadows. And so there is like a sun god that's like raining. So this is a city that has 3 suns. And so they call it Nevernight because it's never dark. So there's 3 suns. They all rotate at different times, but it's like never dark out. And then there is a goddess that is like in control of the night and the dark. And so she is, I guess, a chosen one of that goddess. So I feel like we'll learn more in the subsequent books about like what her role is, because she doesn't actually know anything about it either. So in the very beginning, her dad is arrested and hung for treason against the empire. And so then she wants to get revenge. So she trains to be like this assassin. So most of the book is her at this assassin school. And they just kind of like kill their students to train them. So there's lots of like, you never know what's going to happen, who's going to be murdered or die. And very entertaining. And then it ended very differently than I thought it was going to. So this is like almost 500 pages and I read it in a couple days because it just kept me so interested. So if you like fantasy and revenge, it's a good one. I gave that one 4 stars. And then I just finished Tell Me Everything. So this was my book of the month for March of 2022. So weirdly, when I like selected these books, I did it by like a number generator to see which books I read. And so it was one of my recent book of the month. So I still have like September of 2021 that I haven't read, but I've read March now. So I just finished this. I haven't really fully digested my feelings about this book. So it is about a girl who is a sexual assault survivor. So she changes a lot of names. She only refers to him as X. And so we don't know the relationship. So it's either her dad or her stepdad would be my guess. But so she was sexually assaulted by him as a young child and then like lived with him. And it's about a lot of her trauma and like awful relationship with her mom. And so that's like weaving its way through. So if you don't like to read about sexual assault, this is not the book for you because it is the whole way through. And so it says like the tag is the story of a private investigation. So she becomes a private investigator. So she talks about how her face is like really neutral and people always think that they remember her and they just tell her secrets. So like wherever she is, they're just like, blah, blah, tell them her life story. And so she puts that to work with a lawyer on a rape case against a university. And it turns out that like everybody in the football department is involved. So it sounds like it's based on a true story. She never says the university's name. I'm sure that you could look it up and find it. But it was an interesting book, and it's interesting to see, like a private investigator, but I do feel like it was kind of more memoir than I thought it would be. It wasn't as much about the case, especially at the end, it flipped more to her and her trauma. So I think I gave it 4 stars. It was good. I did like it. And she's a good writer. So 4 stars. Tell Me Everything. Private investigation. All right, so those were my 14 books. And yeah, I feel like April was a good month. I finished a lot of series. I read my whole TBR that I had selected, which I think was like 5 books. So I'm really excited for May because my friend Jamie also does like book of the month. And so we normally try to pick like opposite books. And then we also, like, she doesn't love fantasy, so that she doesn't cross over into that. But I went to her bookshelf yesterday and just like picked a bunch of books that I want to read. So, and that was my plan. My plan was to read books from Jamie for May. And then I'm also, one of my book clubs is reading The Reckless Girls by, I think it's Rachel Hawkins. So, and that's a book that's been on my TBR for a while, so I will read those and let you know how it goes at the end of May. So, thank you for watching.